Okay, if y'all can just go ahead and introduce yourselves one by one, starting with you, sir, on the end.
My name is Dominique.
You gotta speak loud enough so the camera can hear you. Project your voice out.
My name is Dominique Mitchell.
How old are you?
I'm 16.
16.
Yes, sir.
Next person.
My name is Anthony Feimster. I'm 20 years of age.
Next person.
My name is Olivia Mitchell. I am 33 years of age.
And when I ask these questions, you can just jump in. If you choose not to say nothing, that's no problem. What age did y'all get started playing instruments? My stuff. Okay, somebody got to answer them. At what age did y'all get started playing?
I was interested in playing the drums at the that I remember at the age of 4.
Age of 4? Mm-hmm. And what got you interested in it?
Church. I always seen my mom playing. You know, I was just interested in, I guess.
Okay, sir.
Well, I can't quite remember when I had started. Probably like around 4 though. I started playing drums. You know, I always had a thing for piano, but I started playing drums first, and I was inspired by most of my family members. You know, nobody was really playing drums, but my cousin Olivia. But I was always hanging around, other musicians.
So this is your mother, and this is your cousin.
Yes.
Okay. And what about yourself, ma'am?
That I can remember 6.
Seems like you're the leader of this pack right here. Okay, you started, and what instrument do you play?
I play drums.
Play drums, and you started at the age of 6.
Yes.
Do you believe that you were called, as we say in church, to do the instruments that you do?
Yes, I believe that.
Why do you believe that? Like, what, did you get a dream, a prophecy, or?
Well, I feel that everyone is placed, like you're born in a certain situation, and out of that, comes gifts and fulfillment. So, because I was born in the family and because I was raised in holiness, we took upon different gifts. Those were different talents that we have.
Okay. Anthony?
Yes, most definitely. I believe it was a gift. I don't know so much if it was a prophecy or a vision or whatever, but I didn't practice as lot. I didn't practice as much as people that start off playing, that want to play, or had, I just knew how to do it. It wasn't.
Came natural to you.
Yeah, it was just natural.
Dominique?
It also came natural for me. I believe that it was a gift because, I was in certain situations that I was needed, and it was small situations, but it was still need for my presence there at that time.
Okay. And who was your mentors? Like, who did you study up under? Who did you go to learn more from?
Sydney Oliver.
Sydney Oliver.
Sydney Oliver. Same.
And my mom, Teresa.
Yeah.
Your mom, Teresa Jones, she plays also?
Yes.
What instrument does she play?
She plays piano, organ, drums.
Good Lord.
She don't play them, but she can play them.
I see. She has experience on that. Who invested into your start? Like, did you take lessons on the weekends, or was you in the school band, or just learn by watching? Watching?
I learned by watching until high school. I got into a school band, school jazz band.
Okay. Did you, from there, did you start learning how to read music, or?
Yes. At that point, I could play by ear on drums, but I was learning how to read drum music, and I was converting over to piano at the end of my high school career. So it was a transition. I wasn't learning how to read piano music, but I had learned how to read drum music.
Okay. What about you, Miss Olivia?
Yes. It just came natural. We didn't. We just played together. It wasn't any lessons. We just heard and we just watched. We watched our family, and then we watched who they were watching.
What are some of the memories that you care to share on your beginning days of watching? It's like, what was some of the it's like, oh yeah, I remember when that happened to me and that made me better, or that happened to me and it made me wonder if I want to still go on. Anyone have any beginning precious memories? Because I remember hearing some of yours, and I don't want to bust nobody's out. I want to give you a chance to say yours. Go ahead, Dominic.
All the times when I wasn't doing a certain thing I was supposed to be doing. You get switched off. Off the instruments, or getting whoopings in the church. For them, getting angry.
How did it feel when you got switched off? What does switched off mean to you?
It meant that it wasn't what I was doing. I wasn't prepared. I wasn't seasoned enough. It meant that practice more, do better.
When you got switched off, was it in a rehearsal or was it in a service?
Both.
Both. Why did you get put on in the first place if you wasn't ready? Or did you just jump on without permission?
I probably just jumped on without permission.
Anxious? Want to get there to that level?
Yeah.
How did it make you feel when you got put off?
It hurt. Hurt bad. You had that knot in your throat full of tears, about to cry. Sometimes I did cry, got attitude, then end up getting a whooping. But it ended up, being a good life lesson.
I see. Anyone else?
Yeah, I remember this one time. Actually, I got put off drums. I got forced on. People always knew I could play. I was always practiced. I was a good practicer, but I never got pushed out there. So one of the drummers from the church was like, "Man, just get on, man. Get on for offering." It's like, "No, I'm all right. I'll wait." I didn't want to get on until I felt like I was fully ready. But I got put on, and you get those looks from those musicians, like he ain't holding the beat. You don't know what to do next, so you just riding that foot. You just riding the foot, and you get swapped.
How did that feel when you got switched?
I knew. It made me feel like I wasn't needed in the situation, but at the same time, it made me feel like I had to do something better in order to be prepared for that situation next time.
Who switched you? Was it
Sydney Oliver?
Oh, okay.
Sydney Oliver.
I see. Okay. Olivia, first time memories? Good or bad?
Yeah, both.
Okay, share please.
I remember at Victorious Believers Ministries when I'll never forget this. This was an experience for me, but it was good and it was bad at the time. Like my son said, I had that knot in it. I was 13, and my uncle always taught me flow. He always taught me to, which means you have to just be ready.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be ready. You have to be in the mode of ministering in your craft, in my craft. And so I was just being trained. I started at 6, but I was just really being trained under the auspices of Bishop Pryor, under my uncle. And so church didn't go as planned. And so Bishop Pryor came out and the anointing was already there. And he went forth, and I was so caught up on him prophesying, I was watching the wrong stuff, and it was my cue to play, and my uncle yelled out, "Watch me," and so that was my hurt experience, and my hands were numb and my legs were weak. I went through a whole emotional thing about it, but I'll never forget that. And so I'm always, as a minstrel, I'm always ready for the flow. Whether pastor preaches, whenever God shows up, I'm always ready. And so that was the experience.
What was your first gig that you got paid for, if you got paid for any? The time where someone called you and said, "Hey, we want you to come play for this, play for that. What was your first gig? Anyone?
Well, I can remember, while it's still fresh on my mind, I can remember, I didn't know musicians got paid. I didn't know. I was 13 again, and I was consistently coming because it's something that I wanted to do. Money wasn't on my mind at that time. And so I remember it was a revival at Victorious Believers Ministries, and Bishop Pryor walked up to me like himself, and he said, "Oh, here's some hot dog money for you." And I said, "Oh, thanks." And I opened that package up later on the way home after this revival, and oh my goodness, I started screaming. I couldn't believe that it was that amount of money in there. And so
Care to share the amount? It's spent now. Can anybody borrow it?
It was $50. I was 13. It was $50, and I had never gotten that much money.
That shocked him.
And so because I didn't even know people got paid. I wasn't expecting it, and so I continued to play, and they took me, and Uncle Sidney just walked me through the process of being paid. But he always made sure my heart was in the right place, that the money wasn't the forefront.
First time experience on a gig?
Well, I always had I always got called to, I need you here, we need you here to come play, or, because I never thought of it as getting paid, so I, just feel like I was helping out the ministry, And one time, I got a call from, well, it may have been one before this, but I know for sure, I was going to VBM, and Pastor Martin had called me. And personally, this was when he was on Pearson Road, he called me, and, it was a smaller ministry. He was like, "Look, we ain't got that much, but we need a drummer for the night. And, we pay you about $25. I wasn't that good. I didn't expect that much, But
how old were you on this?
I had to be about 15,
Okay.
16. Asked Uncle Sidney, was it all right? He said, "Yes, sir, it's all right," because I wasn't the main drummer at VBM, I was just coming with my uncle. So, that was one, that's one of them that I remember for sure, getting that, and they taking me home, showed my mama, "Hey, look what I got," and, of course I probably had to give her some, but
Of course.
hey, that's probably one of the main first gigs I remember getting.
Dominic?
I always went with my grandmother, Teresa Jones. I always went with her. She'll always call my mom. Say, "Can Dominique come play?" And I wasn't that good ever. And I was like, "All right, come on, can I play? Can I go play?" I always had really wanted to play. And she'll call, she'll come pick me up, and sometimes we'll go out to eat. But when she first gave me some money, it was like, let's do this again. It was like, it was a good feeling. I got paid for what I was doing.
In that first time where you didn't know that musicians get compensated for their work, from that time of not knowing to that very first time of coming into that knowledge, do you think that was dangerous or that was enlightening as far as, oh really, did it hurt you? Did it change your mind about your craft, your gift, your call, or did it educate you more?
Well, for me, it did all. It hurt me.
Why'd you get hurt?
Because if this person that compensated me took out the time to notice what I was doing, even if I wasn't that good, they took out the time to notice that, hey, he can hold a beat, or his gift is well enough to be compensated. How long did it take, for that to
Finally come to light.
finally come out, or did people miss it, or was that the first initial time that I had, was supposed to be getting it? So it enlightened me. It actually helped me out. I didn't know what I wanted to do in life. When I found out I could get paid, I wanted to know how is the best way I can get paid. Okay, well, you got to go to school for it. You got to, so in a sense, it helped me out. I was hurt, but I wasn't as hurt as I was happy,
Okay.
because now I know that I can make a living off of what God has given me,
Do you think the people that knew that you could have gotten paid all along, do you think that they kept that from you on purpose so they wouldn't have to pay you, or they genuinely didn't have the money? And if they genuinely didn't have the money, couldn't they have told you?
Yeah, yeah.
Anyone?
I want to say this. We have a great advantage that we were raised in the pastoral musician, minstrel based family, because when you really think about it, musicians don't understand sometimes when you're not you don't come out of that thread what you're supposed to get paid if you're even ready. I'm glad because my parents allowed it. They allowed it. If I wasn't ready, my uncle would have gave that money back. If I wasn't ready, if I wasn't able to handle it, I was already getting allowance for working in the house, but the money thing, the compensation was an offering. It wasn't a salary.
Gotcha.
It was an offering of appreciation at that age and at that time of new beginning. But to me, it was like, I got good grades, I'll get this money if I know I'll get something if I just get all A's. Mm-hmm. So it put a demand on my craft, my behavior, me being humble. It put a demand on, you just can't come in any old kind of way. You know, it's time to step it up as far as following the rules and knowing the songs and so forth.
Okay. What's the difference between musician, minstrel, if there is any difference at all?
To me, personally, I think a minstrel is a person who uses their gift to praise God, uses their gift to minister to the people. And a musician is a person who uses their gift to get paid, I guess. Just do it for the money instead of doing it for the ministry of God.
Okay. Anyone else?
I believe that the difference between a minstrel and a musician is minstrels are concerned about the heart of God. We're concerned about the people of God. We're concerned about what makes God, his move, his passion, the things that David was concerned about. When you were a musician, you don't really, you're a musician. This is a part of our life. Being a minstrel, you're still worthy of your hire, but you're more concerned about serving God's people while you're being taken care of. You're more concerned about the flow of the Spirit. You're more concerned about how to usher in God's presence. You want Him. You thirst. You know what I'm saying? It's a thirst there.
Have you ever heard? Did you want to chime in on that, or?
Oh no.
Have you ever heard of a church or seen advertisement for the need of a musician? Like in the newspaper, they got the ad, church looking for a musician, church, Harvard's church looking for a musician, this church need a musician. Have you ever heard the word minstrel used from the church? In any advertisement? In any spoken word?
Spoken word.
Very rarely.
Why do you think that is? From the definition that you all shared, from the definition that I have heard and even read in 2 Kings 3:15, I do believe, Elisha, he said, bring me a minstrel and I can prophesy. He didn't ask for a musician. Now, some people might say it's a play on words. Same thing. I never seen it as such. I've always seen it, no, there's a fine line difference, because the musicians that I see on MTV or BET, I wouldn't call them minstrels. I would call those are musicians. I wouldn't call them minstrels. But if there's a big difference between the two, why aren't the churches asking for a minstrel?
Well, I think personally, when they ask for a musician, honestly, it's with me. It's more of an awareness type thing. When I say that, I mean the musician. When they ask for a musician, they're asking for someone who knows how to do this. You don't necessarily, because a lot of people know how to flow. That ain't a lick of save. They just know how to. They know they're a musician. That's what they do. Like they've perfected their craft to the point where it's just part of what they do. So a lot of times when they ask, we need a musician. I don't know. Maybe when they ask for a minister or a minstrel, that probably scares them, or I don't know. It may have an effect that what they're asked for is probably too much of a demand. A lot of people may think, well, they just need a musician. I come in and play, get out of there. But if you ask them for a minstrel, they know what's required. A lot of musicians know when you ask them for a minute, like if you ask for a minister of music, the musicians will know what's required.
Got you.
What
do you think would happen if a church stood up and said, we need a minstrel? What do you?
Churches have gotten up and said that.
Have a minstrel step forward.
Yeah. No. I'm saying churches have said that, but it depends on what culture of churches we're talking about. Sometimes, the gap between leaders and musicians, it's a big gap because there's a big misunderstanding sometimes. But the pastors and leaders and musicians that understand the different cultures or the non-traditional churches that's in the move and the wave of God, they'll call you and say, okay, we don't need a musician, we need a minstrel. So I'll say that, but as far as traditionally, no, you just a musician.
Where do y'all see the church going in today's time with the musicians that you know, the musicians that you hear of? Where do y'all see the church at today?
Overall, lost.
Really?
Honestly, because I feel like musicians, because of sometimes it could be because of who they have been mentored by, or some musicians just know how to play. They never knew that this is the time to flow, this is the time to go to this part. So that essence of the service has been lost. The timing of how the Spirit actually is being flowed in and out of the service is being lost. So they're trying to balance out their gift and balance out their talent based on what's happening.
What would you accredit that to, as far as them not being mentored, but they just learn how to play? What would you accredit that to? How did they just sit up and practice a whole lot? Or some people said everyone wants to learn off of YouTube now, from the different websites that show you how, showmethat.com, all these different websites that show, but very few people want to sit up under.
I was talking to my Uncle Sid when I went down this year, and one thing he was saying about the YouTube and everything, and he told me that him and Kenneth Martin and Paris Rideout, one thing that these people had of that time, they had dedication. They didn't have the technology to it takes out a part of laziness. Where they would have to haul they have to haul everything just to go practice, or they would have to go get books and get tapes and winding them up versus just pulling up something on YouTube and they pressing every chord that's to the song. And it's so, in a sense, since things have came a lot easier, the dedication for it has been lost in a sense. It's a different way of learning, but maybe it could be a hindrance as well.
What is your thoughts to the cell phone phenomenon that's taking place in church? And what I mean by that is, you can have a person on the organ, just doing some wonderful things. You can have a person on a drum doing some wonderful things, backing up the preacher while they're preaching. But all attention is on the organ or the keyboard or the drums, instead of the word of God that's being preached. Does that bother you when you see that, or it's just the way it is now, or
Okay, can you clarify that question? Like, I mean, they're backing up the leader, so evidently they're following him.
Yes, the organ and the drums, the musicians are following the pastor.
Right.
But then you have this crowd of people that's coming out with their cell phones, and they're watching the organist, they're watching the drummer, and they're not even paying attention to what's being said, what's being the spoken word of God. Do you see that happening? If you do, does that bother you? It's just the way things are now, or is that a problem that's happening in church today?
Personally, from that aspect, you have to really be careful. We have to really be careful on how we address what's happening, because you never know the motive. And you know, especially our youth, because you mentioned earlier, I could be the leader of the pack. That's just for right now. But they're going to be leading.
Exactly.
This way. You know what I'm saying? So we have to be careful on how we address people and what we say. Make sure we're not judgment. But from the aspect of entertaining, that would be evangelistical, or no, I don't necessarily feel, because I'm not the center of what God is doing. That's not time. It's a certain time for that. That's not the time. But at the same time, you know, someone that understands learning musicians, because there used to be a time where the people we set up under, or musicians, would take the time out to teach you. There's no time for that no more. So, but no, at the time of word, it's time for word. And I had to teach Dominique that growing up in church. You know, it's not time to go play. It's not time for that. It's time for us to sit down and listen before children's church came along. It's certain time. You can do the right thing at the wrong time. Be out of order.
Very true.
So,
do you think it's the musician's job to tell them, don't do that right now? Or they just do what they do? Because, you know, granted, if you felt that a lot of people had cameras on you, that's going to boost your ego. You're going to feel that, oh, I really can't mess up now because I'm literally under the spotlight.
no, if you're in the flow, at that time, you're ministering and God is doing something. While the man of God is going forth, God is doing something. It is a time for, maybe after church, maybe during a certain meeting with the youth, or you can, as a musician, you wait and you can gather them up, because we say things at the spur of a moment. You could be damaged and you're disrupting the flow. So your position is right in position at that time. Maybe after church, because, you know, the Bible speaks of being slow to, you know, being slow to anger, or being slow to speak, not so quick to speak. So, but when you notice something, then you have to consult with your leader on how should you do this, or how do you, you know, I noticed this too, Pastor. So how can we, you know, because your heart is to the people and to their children.
What was your worst experience? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I would say that, you know, it really depends on how you taking everything, you know, because a lot of times the word that's being spoken may not be, you know, if I'm a minister and the word is going forth and it's not touching me, it is not touching me in the sense that it can help me at all. The word is off. Everything is, but the musicians are following them. The musicians are on point. They're doing what they have to do in order to back him up as best as they can. And so in some cases you run into people that will never have the time to just talk to you, or just never have the time. So it wouldn't hurt to just take a voice recorder and just sit it down and watch the service. You see what I'm saying? So sometimes, because a lot of times people, not necessarily saying that they don't want to help you, they just wouldn't have the time. You know, afterwards, you dealing with people, you dealing with Marvin Winans people. They not gonna sit down and talk to you like you would come and, oh yeah, man, that's what I did. You know, we barely get that. We grew up with barely that. A lot of people have grew up with, okay, yeah, we can teach you, but we never like had that as a true background, as a true backbone. You know, a lot of people. Well, yeah, you know, they used to show me these chords, but we never got that. Yeah, they used to show me these chords. You got to set up arrangements to get chords and things like that. But that's just my look on it. A lot of times the music can be touching you more than the word if if the word is not being presented in time, you know, like
Gotcha.
Right.
if the word is not okay, the word is going forth, but we all know what he's about. We all know that this is false. We all know. Might as well just pay attention to this wonderful musician. Since I'm a musician and I know I can learn something, might as well pick, you know. So that's how I look at it sometimes.
Is it wrong at a funeral setting? 2 minutes, please. And you're the organist, you're the drummer, sitting there. And the pastor has said 2 minutes, you know, and the person gets up there. They have taken up. We already know that we have played it enough funerals. They have already done their 2 minutes, and now they want to sing a song.
No.
Is it wrong for the musician not to play for them?
No, it's not wrong.
It's not wrong.
It's not wrong.
But the whole church is looking at you now like, come on.
It doesn't. Okay. Back to the order. That person's family is very inconsiderate. When that person's family have already sit down with the pastor, have already gotten it, that's no. Because I know some people that will come snatch you off the podium. You know, grandma done passed, they've already arranged this. So if they say 2 minutes and somebody pull your coattail, please don't start up. You know what I mean? And no, don't play. Don't play because now you're supporting something that's out of order. You're putting a ripple in the water. It's not time. It's not that time. It's not your time. This is not for you.
A lot of times, you know, and I truly agree with that, you know, and the thing is, but one of the things that do happen is you go to some churches and the people that's over the order wouldn't make a stand. They wouldn't come pull their coattail. They wouldn't come do nothing. They really wouldn't do nothing until it's done. So a lot of times, if you don't play, now all the attention is on you.
Right.
You see, why you're not playing and they're singing. So so many things play a factor. Of course, everyone knows the order. Everyone, even the person that got up, know you only have 2 minutes. But as a musician, as a minister, that's where the awareness kicks in. Okay, well, we know what's gonna happen. If they don't, you know, if they strike up a song, you know, try to pick out this key for them, and just, you know, just do this for them, because you never know where that person's at neither. You know, I mean, the order is required, but this could take the church to a whole nother level. You know, for everybody.
Yeah,
well, what does it say as a whole?
Well, yeah, as a whole, people need to learn order. Musicians know order, and sometimes things can get out of hand. And sad thing is, it falls in the musician's hand a lot of times. You know, dead spots. You know, you know, people don't pay attention to the music that's being played, but when it's done, you can hear that the musician has stopped. So.
Is being paid being appreciated? Is that the same thing? I paid you, so therefore that's my appreciation to you. Or is being paid and being appreciated is being appreciated? Are they separate or are they the same thing?
They work together.
They work together.
Simultaneously.
So you're saying within that they're separate?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dominique.
I believe that because the church I play for now, Divine Deliverance Ministries, I believe
24-14.
I believe that
plug here for the
situation that we're in, it's really appreciative. Because I've been playing there for a long time, and you know, I've come a long ways, you know, since I started playing there.
What's your definition of a long time? You're 16.
For about 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
4 or 5 years. And
that's longevity in musician time.
Yeah. When I was playing there, I wasn't getting paid at the time. You know, the drums weren't, you know, as I wanted them to be. You know, so I was just coming in and playing. And then when they started paying me, you know, my mom called me and said, you know, you want to get paid? And I was like, well, I got a job, you know. But she was like, yeah, you know, you're getting paid at the church. So I was like, you know, cool, you know. I've been playing there for a long time, and they started paying me. So I'm like, I must be doing something right, you know. So when they started paying me, and they sat me down in the office and they talked to me about, you know, the paying arrangements, it was like, you know, we appreciate you being here. You know, you've proven that, you know, you're worthy to be here every Sunday. You know, you've proven yourself, you know, to be here. And rehearsals, you know, we're going to pay you. And I thought, you know, in my mind, okay, I've earned this. You know, this is what, you know, they're appreciative, you know, of me.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Can I clarify something? You know, when the position came about, the pastor is great friends with my parents. And we sit down, my family sit down and talk about me. But his dedication was proven. I got a call from someone that was offering him a lot more. And I want to say this, you know, for the record, they was offering him 3 times more. And it was impressive, but I put it out there anyway. I said, church needs you over here. You know, they're paying $150. Would you like to, you know, and his response was, it made my heart happy. Because he said, and I knew what he was getting paid. He said, oh no, I'm here. I'm not moving. I'm not going nowhere. I can't play for another church. I'm dedicated. This is my foundation. This is where I'm going to be. But it plays a lot in mentorship. How the pastor mentored him and helped him with different situations. That's what love is about. It's just not money.
Okay.
Appreciation is just not money. You know.
You said something that arose a question. And these are, like I said, these are just questions. I'm not trying to, you know, let's take the fort. Does a plumber have to come in and prove their self before they get paid?
No.
Does a roofer have to come in and prove themselves before they get paid?
Not on my roof.
They come, they look at the job, they give you a quote. Either you're going to pay it or not. If you want their service, then they come, they ask for a certain deposit up front, they finish the job, and then you pay them the rest. Correct? Mm-hmm. Why do we as musicians have to prove ourselves before money is a factor?
Well,
Hard question.
yeah, real hard. You know, when you're
Open.
dealing with people, for instance, like you said, the plumber. The plumber comes in, you don't know the plumber at all. You don't know the plumber, but in a sense, you know what they're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so in a sense, coming straight in, knowing what you're worth. The plumber knows what he's worth. The plumber knows what he's supposed to be doing and what's that's worth. So, in a sense, yeah, coming straight in should be, compensation should be discussed as soon as possible. But I guess I can say it's different in ministry because it's going to be a consistent. How do I say it?
A consistent service.
Yeah.
They're going to be there more. The plumber's coming in for a one-time job,
And you
but
can
the
have
musician
another.
is going to be there week after week.
Yeah.
It's always a better one.
So when I came to the church I'm at now, what they did was they didn't have me come in on the day they needed service.
Mm-hmm.
They had me come in on the rehearsal day. They had me come in to see, okay, what I'm able to do, what I'm not able to do. I already had in my mind how much I'm worth. You know, I knew I wasn't worth 500. I had to take everything into consideration. So in a sense, I was scoping this. Okay, it's not a large church. Okay, it's not okay. I know it can be afforded, even though this is what I'm able to do. This is what's really supposed to be required. But all of those things took in consideration. So before I even got paid to play, they had me come in before, and you know they sat me down. So from when I started, it was basically it was compensation. But yeah, I believe that musicians should come in being compensated. You know,
Or any
even
job.
if it took growth to get to where they really
on any job, McDonald's, factory, after the interview process, have you heard of anyone went in for a week and let me see if you can, do this job before we pay you?
No. I had a comment to add to that. No, because it's a job. Well, this is a bit different. I look at it as a fine restaurant, or I look at it as a potential loving relationship. The relationship that consists between a pastor lead, and you have to be passionate about it. If I go to a real good restaurant, a real nice restaurant, and the food is dirt, that breaks the relationship between me and that relationship. I may get a bill, but I'm not paying for no bad service, and I ain't paying for no horrible food. So we pay for good food. But at the same time, you can go to a little shack where they selling hot tamales, and they selling real good food, and you see the chef back there sweating and working, and he loves what he do. If you have extra, you giving them extra. Not only am I paying for my food, but I want to sow something. So the passion it is between you getting paid, between it really, because if I see, and then the relationship is important. That's more than a job. But if you come in dating a woman, or a man dating a woman, or a couple, you come in as a couple and you have feelings for that person, that's a relationship base. You're gonna reap the benefits, but you gotta show me something.
What scripture would you back that with? I hear, know those who labor among you. It's like, I should know you. I should know your skill set, because we about to labor together.
Right.
Pastor, musician, we're supposed to plow this field together. So
Right.
all that talk,
And no walking.
all that talking in the interview process, or you've heard of me before, you should know me. You should know me by the Spirit. Know me by sitting down talking to me. But why have me work for you now? Or when the church says, we're going to start you here, and if we like it, then we'll move it up to here. How does that rest well with you?
Or sometimes we'll start you here, or as the church grow, let's go to the table. This is what we can afford, because sometimes musicians, and I made this mistake before in my thought process, not being open to development. So when Anthony said you have to take all in consideration, but let's come to the table, because this is the ultimate of what I need. I have a family, I have, and this is my life, but I'm willing, and I'm saved, and I'm doing this as mentor. But let's come to the table. I'm willing to do this. I'm willing to start here, but let's develop a pattern. Let's come to the table, and if things grow and if things change, and then that with listening to the voice of God on His leading, then let's see what you say about but staying open and staying willing, as both pastors, leaders, and musicians. Let's not take advantage of one another.
3 words. Tell me what they mean to you. Sex, drugs, shouting. When it comes to a church musician, what does those? When you hear the word sex and you're a church musician, what does that mean to you? When you hear the word drugs and you're a church musician, what does that mean to you? When you hear the word shouting, what does that mean to you as a church musician? Those 3 words.
Well, separately, or
Think about it.